Right. Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, it's good to see everybody. It's been a while since we've all spent some time together on a conference call or a webinar, and we surprisingly have quite a few people on, which is good, and more people jumping on all the time. So welcome. Today, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about a few things, just topical issues that are going on, and when we get into the treatment season, we don't have much of a chance to kind of regroup and take stock of where we are and act as a network as much as we do in the off season. And obviously, that's for obvious reasons, right? Everybody's busy. And this spring was although I feel like a broken record, and I feel like I say this every spring and every summer and every winter for the last few years, was certainly a different spring for most parts of the country. Where most of, or a good concentration of the BeeSafe applicators are up in the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic. It was one of the latest winters we've ever had. I mean, literally, speaking from a personal standpoint here in New Hampshire, I know most companies didn't get out on lawns until the end of April. I believe April 20th was a Monday, and that's the Monday that at least my old friends at Lawn Dog got on the road. And the year before, it was the first week of March. So that's a good solid, man, that's like a 7-week swing, and that's not good for your business. It really isn't. And I used to, talk a lot about, especially at Lawn Dog, the value of one day. And when you lose a day to weather, you don't just make it up. It just, it's hard to just snap your fingers and do twice as much work the next day. The way this spring fell up here was I'd say it was about a 3-week delay from normal, and it's hard to come back from that. It has a huge impact on sales and attitudes, and it used to be that in late winters you'd have your best sales season, but this one was a little bit different. It was a very difficult winter, and people were kind of grumpy. So in other parts of the country, we've had all kinds of extreme weather. If any of you want to make a comment about how it's affected you guys, please do. But again, it seems like over the last, 5 years or so, we're always talking about extremes, and I don't know if that plays into the global warming thing or what, or if it's just coincidence. Or up here in the Northeast and again in the Mid-Atlantic, Upper Midwest, it's so changeable all the time. It's so difficult to predict that. You're crazy if you try to. So that threw a monkey wrench into a lot of people's plans. But as we always say, simplify, plan, implement, adjust, and you need to adjust. You need to adjust accordingly, and that's, I guess, why we wanted to do this on June 1st. June 1st, even today's the 11th, but the beginning of June, for me, is always the time to take stock of where you are. You should be able to project your entire remaining season financially. You should be able to know exactly where you're going to come in within 5% in regards to sales and production and that kind of thing. It should be very simplified. You've all heard me talk about how it's really a math equation over the years. And once you get to June, you should know where you are and where you're going to be. You're not going to make a lot more sales, at least in lawn care, when it comes to fertilization. It's pretty cyclical. I know most of you guys do other things too, and that's a different story, but when we're talking about, or when I'm talking specifically about lawn care and fertilization. And after Memorial Day, you'll make some sales here or there, but the goal is really just to break even in your customer count when you get towards fall, and you can usually make a few sales then. So I did a real quick agenda here. We're kind of going to go a little bit informal, and I don't want to spend a lot of time. Looks like we've got about 29 people on the line, but that means that there's a lot who aren't on the line. And I'm recording this, so I'll send it out, and I know that there's nothing worse than watching a recorded webinar or a recorded conference call of me rambling on for 90 minutes. So let's keep it kind of quick. But I wanted to just cover a couple things and regroup and say hello to some of you guys that I haven't talked to in a while. Some of you guys I talk to all the time. I'm looking at the list of people who are on. Yeah, hey, all right. Most of you guys I talk to. See, this is the engaged group, right? There's a lot of guys who are engaged. So I wanted to talk to start about the state of the BeeSafe network, and I think that's important because we're doing really well, and we've continued to grow over the years. We're now operating at 122 locations. Some are more active than others. Some are really super active. So many of you guys have actually, worked hard to take on the brand and kind of consider your entire business is revolving around BeeSafe, and that's great too. And I want to thank you and let you know how appreciative I am that you've helped us continue to grow over the course of the last few years. And we do every single year. And like I said, we're up to 122 locations. I even use this website for my own reference sometimes. It's mybeesafelawn.com, and click on locations, and here we all are. And as I said, there are some more active than others. There are some super active. There are some that have slipped away a little too, but that's all par for the course, and we get that. I'd love to re-engage some of the guys who've kind of slipped away a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So thank you for being active. I hope we've done a good job for you. And as I always say, if there is anything we can do for you moving forward, please let us know, because that's what we're here for. We firmly understand that the better you do, the better we do. And we want to help you in everything you do, from operations to agronomics to marketing. I had a long conversation with somebody about bookkeeping the other day. Everything. So it's what we do here, and we're happy to help as much as we can. So the state of the BeeSafe network is really, really solid and growing. We aren't doing any active recruiting right now in terms of new dealers. You want to know why? Because most of you guys are busy and on the road, and it's difficult to get your attention, or to get any lawn company's attention. So we'll start recruiting again a little bit later this year. We've got a couple small things going on, or a campaign that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, where hopefully we'll do a little bit of recruiting. But we'll begin reaching out to other lawn and landscape companies in earnest, usually in August, when things begin to slow down a little bit. Summer is not always the most productive time for us to try to talk to lawn companies. So does anybody have any questions about where we are, or any comments or concerns or anything that they'd like to let me know, or about the network itself? Please type them in there, and or give me a call afterwards. I talk to most of you guys often and all the time in email. I feel like sometimes my life revolves around emails, but that works too. So feel free to reach out anytime. Like I said, on June 1st, it was always the time of year for me where we essentially ended our sales campaign. We closed it down, and we knew that with what we had on the books on June 1st, we'd be able to project through the end of the year within 5%, and we always tried to get it closer than that. But most of all of your work should be sort of settled by now. And again, I want to say again, I'm talking about fertilization. I'm not talking about construction or some of the other things that lots of you guys do, because you can sell that all year long. I'm talking about lawn care, fertilization, and the optional services that revolve around it. And on June 1st, we're settled. I wanted to bring up real quick our own internal marketing campaigns that we ran through mybeesafelawn.com, the pay-per-click campaigns, the AdWord campaigns, the PR, the press releases, and social media, Facebook, that kind of stuff. We generated close to 400 estimates for our locations, which I was kind of hoping for a little bit more than that. But that's okay. That's you set stretch goals and you try to fill them in from there. Pay-per-click and AdWords was much slower than we had thought, and Seth, who a lot of you guys probably have talked to, who ran the campaign for us, really said search was way down, and that is clearly as defined by the weather. When there's snow on the ground, people aren't searching for lawn care. And really it reinforces some of the things that I've always tried to tell you guys, is that while you do an AdWords or a pay-per-click or anything inbound, anything SEO that relies on people looking for you, you have to make sure that you're doing as much, I shouldn't say as much, 10 times more, 50% more outbound stuff. You have to make sure that you're going after people. And when we built all of our marketing campaigns and when we put together our lead sources and built all of our budgets last fall and last winter, that reflected that. You need to make sure that you have as much of a proactive approach in finding your customers as you do waiting for them to find you, because them coming to you is a small portion of your campaign in the first place, and then in years like this year where it was winter until summer basically, people just simply don't reach out. Nobody's sitting around saying, hey, I think I need to Google organic lawn care when there's 6 feet of snow on the ground. I know that that's not the case everywhere in the country, especially for you guys down south and in places where we didn't have a terrible winter, but that's the case everywhere else. So AdWords and pay-per-click was a little bit low. We generated quite a few leads through social media. It didn't do what I wanted it to do, but we still were able to throw out a few hundred leads to the people who participated. So that's a good thing. I wanted to take some time now because I really hope that you're able to kind of follow along with a lot of the administrative stuff that I'd like you to do over the course of the year, because it's so helpful. I was talking to another applicator, and the phrase "what's measured is managed" came up again. It was somebody who was, I mentioned how things are cyclical, but typically as we approach July, most of you guys get burnt out. You make it through the spring, you're happy, you get there, and you have a quick period where you're doing all right and excited and everything seems to be okay. Then when you get into the summer, you get burnt out and tired again. And this guy had, I think it was setting in a little bit early. He said, I'm just tired. I got a guy who left. A lot of guys have employee retention issues, and you just always find something to bitch about. And this one particular person was really not good at tracking where he was, and we kind of determined that really the root of many of his ills were the fact that he just had, how much square footage are you treating? I don't know. How many maintenance customers do you have? I don't know. What's your payroll? I don't know. What are you going to do for gross sales? I don't know. And you really need to have a firm handle on those kind of things. And I always, because I love numbers and I love tracking things and I love stats and statistics, especially when it comes to lawn care, I loved June 1st because that's when we shut all of the marketing campaigns down. We rejected every estimate that was out there, and we got a true definition of what our closing percents were. So I worked with a couple of companies that I worked with to help them determine or track their campaigns. And we've got some results from it. And I'd like you to follow along a little bit and try to do your own stats. It tells you exactly what was successful, what wasn't, and what you should do next year. Remember, one of the things that we worked on all last fall and over the winter is budgeting and putting together sales plans and all that. Everything's based on what you did the previous year, right? So everything that you do next year is going to be based on what just happened these last couple of months. So remember all this whole table where we're making projections, we're looking at all these numbers, and when you look at it from afar, it's kind of nonsense, but when you really focus in on it, it makes sense. This particular company had a very, very small lawn care division with 52 customers at the end of last year, wanted to make 200 sales and grow it to 222 customers with lawn care revenue of $64,000. They were all really small lawns, so the average lawn revenue per customer is $291. This, again, was all based on this historic data from the previous year. We did all this. We determined that if they made that many sales, we do $64,000 in lawn care revenue. And as always, we know how our optionals fall in just like a math equation. You don't even have to be good at it. You just have to execute on a couple procedures and policies, follow through with your systems, and these sales come. So it's very easy to predict those. So this is the plan that we came up last year. We did our whole budgeting process here, wrote a P&L, figured out where we're going to come in. We did our cash flow analysis, and then if you'll remember, and I know you guys are probably looking at this saying, "Oh, geez, maybe I should have done all this last fall." Hopefully you are. Hopefully you did. Hopefully you did all this and did all of your marketing plans all the way through. So we built a marketing plan based on these particular sources: referrals, pre-quals, Saw Truck, direct mail, landscaper emails, Home Advisor, Facebook, social media, all that stuff. So if you recall, we built this marketing campaign. Our goal is to generate 2,234 leads. We wanted to make 249 sales. We're going to close at 11%. Here's how it flowed. This got thrown out the window. This got thrown out the window, and we didn't even adjust this because there was snow on the ground well into April. So the timing of the campaign had to be adjusted significantly. So this is where we ended up. This is where we ended up as of June 1st. On that round revenue goal of $88,596, they came in currently at $96,865. So this is what they have to do for the year for round revenue. Not optionals, the round revenue. Here's how the optionals fell in. Remember, these are the same numbers that were up top. This is what's currently on the books. You're going to continue to sell your optionals throughout the whole year. And hopefully, if you're following the system, you're selling these with every visit that you make, every application that you do. You've got a couple focus services that you're upselling. It's really simple, guys. It's not freaking, brain surgery. You just have to follow through with your systems, and I know most of you do. So we've got our ant, flea, and tick, lime, grub control, aeration, top dressing, weed control. So this is the sales to date. We'll continue to make these sales with every application that we do by sending out our upsell quotes. So when it comes right down to it, on June 1st, we're way ahead of plan here, way ahead. We were able to follow through at 109% of goal for round revenue, and we're very close with optionals, and we'll certainly exceed those. This is where we came in terms of customer count. They run two particular programs, their organic program and their pro program. They currently have 163 customers. So if you remember what we looked at way up here, you're saying, wow, they fell short of their sales goal, and they did. They did, but I'll show you why. We wanted to have 222. They came in at 163. So why are they ahead with round revenue? Well, right here. Their revenue per customer is way ahead of where they planned. They made a couple of adjustments with the amount of marketing they were doing in certain towns, increased their price list a little bit, and closed a couple of really big and lucrative commercial jobs, which blew their revenue per customer out of the water. And as a result, they've come in at 109% of goal for round revenue. This is a success for this company. They're doing very well as a result. But the neat thing here is these numbers right here, and this is what I was talking about with marketing. And this is how every June 1st, I absolutely enjoyed taking a look at all of our sales numbers and comparing them to goal. You got to work your ass off over the winter and early spring to make sure this happens. And you know what though, and sometimes you get a little bit more kind of shook up because you're out snow plowing all the time. And that's why, a lot of times I'll suggest that you simplify and don't snow plow. It's easier said than done. I get it, and I hear I hear you telling me that you can't stop snow plowing, but that's going to interfere with your sales goal unless you're able to delegate effectively. So looking at these numbers, and I won't scroll up again because I know they probably get blurry just looking at them on the computer, but this is what our leads goal was here for all of these sources, if you remember. This is what we actually generated, and this is the percent that we got to goal. So let's take a look at some of the we fell short on most of them, and that's okay. As I said in the beginning, it was a sort of a difficult sales season. Let's look at pay-per-click on a goal of 25 leads. They generated 29 leads, which is 116% of goal. Home Advisor, which I know some of you guys love, some of you guys hate, budgeted 20, had generated 22. Did some email marketing and did fairly well. Came in just about where they wanted it to come in. Direct mail, wanted to generate 100 leads through direct mail, generated 65. I think direct mail was down this year because of the weather. It was so hard to predict when that direct mail was supposed to drop. But this still came in pretty good, 65 on a goal of 100. I see you guys a couple of questions or a couple comments in there, and that I think most people had the same experience with direct mail, and that even though you might not have hit what you wanted to do, it certainly fits in with your whole campaign. You know, if you're doing some email marketing to your list, and people are getting your emails through the course of, you know, leading up to March and April, and then they get a direct mail piece in the mailbox, they say, hey, that's the guy's been emailing me all winter. So when they, you know, they request a lead, you might end up classifying it as email, even though it's as a result of them getting direct mail. So everything works with synergy, right? So that's important. So when it gets right down to it, referral leads were slow, pre-quals were right on. On a goal of 2,234 leads, they generated 1,450, which is 65%. That's missing the goal. But if you think back to when we build all these goals, when we make these plans, we create stretch goals. We create goals that we have to work really hard to hit, and if we fall short, we're still doing all right. It's all about being diverse in the sources that we create and executing the strategy to make sure that we get those leads out there. And then our sales process. It's one thing to generate the leads, but how you follow up and how you close those leads is even harder. You know, and over the course of, you know, 90 days, 4 months, you know, you sometimes let things slip, and you can't. You have to have a sales process in effect that makes sure that all the money that you put into generating those leads are able to convert those leads into sales. So if you look over here, these are our sales goals. We had a goal of 249 sales. I think that's even a little bit higher than we had put up there, but again, we're kind of stretch goals. We want to plan to do more than we know we actually will. Made 136 sales, and again, that's way off, but because we manage and measure everything that we do throughout the whole course of the campaign on a daily basis, we knew that revenue per customer was tracking way ahead through the whole course of the campaign. And you threw in a couple of those big sales, a couple of really big commercial sales, it just pounded that. And you know, so when we talk about adjusting, even though we were falling short in our sales goals and our leads goals, we watched this number closely, and we knew we were ahead. So we didn't have to adjust too hard. We didn't have to make a bigger investment. We didn't have to do a second round of direct mail. We didn't have to pound the email too much. We just wanted to follow through with our systems. And now we know for next year we've got numbers as well. So how did we do with some of these sales numbers? Let's see. That landscape or email number 2 made 7 sales, but that was way more than planned. The biggest source of sales was direct mail, even though we didn't pull off exactly what we wanted it to do. Still made 31 sales through on a goal of 100 leads. So 31 sales was the direct mail, makes the direct mail source our most successful source of new revenue. Most expensive source of new revenue too, especially since that it didn't generate as many leads as we wanted it to. Here's our closing percent. Closed 48%. That's usually just about right on direct mail. 48% of all direct mail. Overall, just under 10%, and that's low. That's very low. Didn't look like we had anything that was incredibly productive where we were off the charts in terms of closing percents. Some of these emails did pretty good. Facebook, couple of sales there, closed those pretty well. But you know, again, outbound leads, you have to go out and find people as much as they're going to come in and find you. So overall, this was a success story. Even though that the leads fell short and sales fell short, revenue per customer was high, and we hit our goals. So this company will continue to move on, make those upsells over the course of the year with optional services, and you know, I'm flashing back to all the time last fall and last winter where we spent so much time doing those workshops, building these plans, budgeting, figuring out how we were going to make these sales, and it's really refreshing to be able to look at how it played out. And how many of you guys actually followed through with doing a similar thing? Feel free to go ahead and chime in. I know that sometimes it gets hard, especially when you're on the road plowing as much as you were, and you can quickly get a little bit overwhelmed. Yep, I agree. So it looks like some of you have. If you haven't, if you didn't, and you aren't where you want to be, that's why. What's measured is managed. And we believe in planning and executing as a huge part of growing your business. And if you didn't go through the process of planning all these things and managing them through the course of the sales campaign, and you're not happy with where you are right now, the reason is right in front of you. So keep that in mind for next year when you try to do it. We can talk about this stuff all the time, and again, I understand that things get busy for you guys, and you got to start thinking about working on your business as opposed to in your business if you really want to grow your business. And I know lots of you guys lose your mind on a daily basis trying to make it all come together, but if we can help in any way, please let us know. And doing these sort of exercises really makes a difference. It really, really, absolutely makes the difference. All right, any questions on the marketing campaign and stats and that kind of thing? Overall, let's close 2015 in terms of our marketing. It was definitely a different sort of year, but in the case of this particular company, they did well. They made some changes and made it work. So hopefully next year we'll have a little bit more of a I don't want to say a normal season, because I kind of figure that's not going to happen, but one of these years. 2 years ago, it's the most historic early season of all time. This year, it's the most historic late season of all time. I don't know how you're going to kind of follow up with that. So let's talk about the product program. Before I even get into that, does anybody have any particular comments or questions to date in regards to the efficacy of the products and the programs? Our feedback has been really good so far with any of the changes that we made. If we made changes to your particular program, hopefully they're working out for you. We tried really hard over the winter to get that lower cost and more competitive program for you to get out there to your customers. I think it worked really well, and the feedback's been pretty good. Again, in regards to the weather, in most of the Northeast and down to the Mid-Atlantic and some places down as far as D.C. and our friends in Pennsylvania, it didn't rain. It snowed. It snowed until the end of April, and then when the snow melted, it didn't rain until about a week ago, which is making things really difficult, right? So again, we're dealing with some adversity with that, and there's nothing you can do. You kind of have to make some adjustments as you go along, and that's what we do. Change the program up and do the best we can. David Roman, what's up, man? Good question. So David's comment is, we need more organic options for weed control for warm season turf, and I couldn't agree more with you, David. And you're a little bit pigeonholed for a couple, especially down where you are in Atlanta. In terms of POA, for one thing, you can use the liquid gluten for POA control. The tenacity, which we'll talk about momentarily, is not recommended for use on Bermuda grass, which kind of hurts you a little bit. If it is a firmly or strictly organic program, Fiesta really is your only option. But I know that most of you guys down there, as with most BeeSafe dealers, kind of make your own adjustments based on what you're trying to do. And I know that you guys dealt with a couple of different chemical products for preventative control of POA. And hopefully it's working out pretty good. But I agree. I wish there were more organic weed control options for everybody. And trust me, we try everything, absolutely everything. And we get some, David, I don't think you were around when we were messing around with what was that other product? I can never remember the name of it. Adios. Man, that was a new one that we really hated. Adios. We said adios to the adios. Some of you guys still use it. Some of you guys mix it with Fiesta. Christy, who I don't think is on, that's what she does. She'll mix adios with Fiesta, and she's warm season, David, so maybe that's something you could talk to her about doing. But when it comes to the preventative control of those annuals, it's definitely tricky, and you got to bend the rules a little bit. We get that. We absolutely get that. And hopefully I've never said anything but that. So we've always got our eyes out there for better options for weed control. You don't know how many times I say this phrase, and if Dick's listening to me, he's going to laugh. God makes weeds. You know, God makes weeds. And whether you've got an organic lawn care program or a chemical lawn care program, if you've got a nuclear lawn care program, you're going to have weeds. Weeds exist because God made weeds, right? And if there were no such thing as weeds, guess what? There would be no such thing as a company that exists to collect money for making weeds go away. So as much as it gets annoying and, you know, sometimes, you know, customers may complain, the fact of the matter is that they hire you to control their weeds. They hire you because they don't want to control their weeds, and you really need to make sure you're using the best options for your customers to make sure you get rid of those weeds. Chemical lawns have weeds, organic lawns have weeds. Sometimes when you go out there and call yourself an organic lawn care company, you're painting that big X right on your chest and you're saying, yeah, I'm organic, and then, you know, you're being blamed for weeds, whereas the chemical lawn care program has as many weeds. The question is, Adios cheaper than Fiesta? I think it is cheaper, but it's different, you know, and I don't think we even have any left here. We sold the Harvard, who has to be completely organic, bought the rest of our Adios. We can get it for you. It's different. It works a little bit differently. Why don't we follow up on that after, David, and we'll talk to Christy too. So weed control is certainly a big deal. So in our optimized program, we all decided that we would use tenacity. And so what's the feedback for tenacity? Go ahead, throw it at me. Nobody's going to say anything about tenacity. I think tenacity is one of the greatest products that has happened to us in a long time, and I've been watching it work firsthand. If you're not careful with it, you can have some issues. For those of you guys who don't read the label when you're using something, please read the label. You know, even though we give you as much information as we can, anytime you use any pesticide or any product at all, make sure that you absolutely sit down and read the label or Google it or learn things about it. And tenacity is one of those products where if you didn't read the label, you might have run into a couple of issues. Yeah, that's right. I knew somebody would say it. Christina, I didn't even see you get on here. How's it going? So yes, the way that tenacity works is that, and Jeff, yeah, I think I was thinking of you guys with the bent grass. So you got to read the label. How does tenacity work? Tenacity makes weeds stop creating chlorophyll. And this isn't the greatest picture. This is a picture that Mike Callahan sent me last night. And you want to know how into his lawns Mike Callahan is. His brother is playing for the Stanley Cup. And right before the game, he starts texting me pictures. What do I do about this? And I said, well, first of all, you should have read the label. Go watch the hockey game. So what tenacity does is it stops plants from producing chlorophyll. And it's a very slow process, and those who've used it have probably noticed that sometimes nothing happens at all for a week. And then after a week, all of a sudden, the weeds begin to turn white. And what I've seen, too, in some of the lawns I've looked at is you're amazed at how many weeds are in there, right? As the turf stays green, all the weeds turn white, and you're like, wow. And it gets right down to orchard grass and barnyard grass. Crabgrass, if there's anything up there, if there's any germinated already, clover it works on. I think it's a great product. However, you're right. You do need to warn your customers, or at least talk to your customers about the potential side effects. The other really important thing is, two important things, is one, it's going to injure bent grass. That's why it doesn't work great for southern lawns, because lots of southern lawns have bent grass in them. It's a warm season turf grass. But there are lawns in the north and cool season regions too that do have bent grass in them. Most of the time, the homeowner or you don't even know that it's bent grass. It's just kind of mixed in and doesn't look right. So it's designed, actually, and the label says that it's designed to control bent grass. What we found is it typically injures the bent grass, and the bent grass bounces back. because the rate of tenacity is so low, and I recommend using it on the low end of the recommended rate. 0.1 ounces per 1,000 square feet. So for those of you guys tank mixing it, what is it, like 12 or 13 ounces per 200 gallons if you're spraying it 1.5 gallons, something like that. The rate is so low. So when you're putting that active ingredient, when you're putting that tenacity in whatever you're using to measure, if you put in, you know who, here's a perfect example, Jeremy. Jeremy, you on this call? Jeremy up in Maine? So Jeremy, I don't think he is. He's usually working. He calls me and says, hey, Tom, yeah, tenacity. I doubled the rate, and some things are going on. You think that's a bad idea? I go, yeah, it was probably a bad idea. So even though he used the high-end rate, he didn't hurt anything, but the tendency for good turf grass, meaning especially ryegrass, to temporarily be bleached out is way higher. So my point is, when you're mixing that tenacity and you're putting in, say, 12 ounces, if you're not paying attention, or it kind of gets built up on the measuring cup too, if you put in 14 ounces, you're going to really, really bleach out some lawns. And I think this is what happened with Mike, and I haven't talked to him yet. I was texting with him last night. But I have a feeling his applicator, whoever was mixed on the way high end. And this is a crummy picture. I wish I had a better one, but it looks like that looks like some decent turf, and it's going to come back. But you have to be careful with the rate. You have to be careful with bent grass too. If you're trying to control bent grass, that's good. If you're trying not to control bent grass, that's not good. And Christina, you're absolutely right. You have to warn your customers about it. Here's an example of how it can be treated too. So every time, here's an example of a company trying to upsell their optional services. And an application is done. Typically, you notify somebody that you're going to come out and do a treatment by email or whatever. You do the treatment, and if you're following the system to do upsells, with this, we send out a quote using MLQ after every application. We use it as an opportunity to communicate, and in this case, we're calling it late spring notes. We're making comments about the lack of water. It had rained recently, and we're thankful. We're talking about how cool season turf grass grows a lot in the spring, doesn't grow in the summer, and without that water in the spring, we're creating all kinds of problems. We're also telling the customer that we're making adjustments to deal with it, all that kind of good stuff that you want to use to communicate with your customers. We also put this warning in here. It says your recent treatment. Is your lawn turning white? Hopefully not the lawn, but you'll notice that the weeds and crabgrass may be turning a white color, and that's because of the environmentally friendly weed control we've chosen to use. We're using a product called Tenacity, extract from the bottlebrush plant. Instead of toxically burning the weeds in your lawn with chemicals, it creates a situation where the weeds stop producing chlorophyll. Process takes a little bit longer. We think it's worth it because it's a low-risk product. It's been described as being benign to humans and animals. Every time I've had a conversation with a customer about the mode of action, or if they call and say, what's going on with my lawn, they think it's cool, especially, organic programs that want to be a little bit different. When they hear that the weeds are dying because of a very sort of different or unique mode of action, they really appreciate it. Now, of course, if you don't warn them in advance of it, or you don't tell them directly after it, and all of a sudden, a lawn turns white the way that Callahan lawn did, they're going to be kind of panicky. But once you explain it to them, they like it. And I think it's a great choice. And we've done so much research, and we've talked about Tenacity so much that really try to find a reason not to use it in our organic program, because it's really not an organic product, right? It's not a certified organic product. Then again, neither is Fiesta. So it's not a 25B or something like that, but it is an EPA-registered low-risk product. Dave Malevsky up in Maine, who I always talk about with his account in Scarborough, Maine. It's an absolute ban on pesticides. Town warrant, you can't use certain pesticides. They follow NOFA specifically, and NOFA was how conservative NOFA is. Dave fought with NOFA and fought with the city to allow him to use tenacity on a couple of the fields that had quite a bit of weeds in them. He's been using Fiesta. They gave him the go-ahead to do that. Scarborough said, yeah, they looked into the product. They said, sure, all right, this looks like it's acceptable, and we'll make an exception. We'll add it to the list of acceptable products. And NOFA just wouldn't let him. And it's important. It's important for him to follow those regulations. And he went back and forth. Chip got involved a little bit, and they finally, and this was huge for those of us who depend on some of the guidance that they give us. They were willing to write in tenacity as an option for a rescue treatment. And what that means is that you don't want to be blanket spraying it everywhere. If you're following those specific restrictions, you don't want to include it on everything just for the sake of including it. But if you've got turf that's loaded with weeds and they need to be controlled, NOFA's given it the go-ahead to use as a rescue treatment. And that was a big deal because they are super, super conservative. It gave him a great opportunity to get some of those weeds out of there. It doesn't cost a ton of dough either, which I think is cool too. I think it's a good thing for your customers, and for most of them who are understanding with the color, and they like to see how, or they're appreciative of the mode of action, it works well. So that's it for tenacity. Any other comments on tenacity? I'd say continue to use it because I think it's going to work really well. I'm really interested to see how it does for preventative control of the grassy annual weeds, and I think it's going to work really, really well. So cool. Down south, David Roman. The dollar spot has been just terrible, right, David? Are you dealing with dollar spot? I talked to Jeff a lot about this outbreak that you guys have had for the second year in a row. Dollar spot is typically not necessarily it's not necessarily a turf damaging disease. It's largely cosmetic. But it seems to be gaining some serious momentum in some different places because of the conditions. So I wanted to touch on dollar spot for a couple minutes. In fact, where is Frank? Frank, who you probably hear me talk about Frank a lot too. Frank just called at 2 minutes to 4 and said, "Hey Tom, what's up?" I said, "Frank, I'm about to do our BeeSafe call. What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, see you later," and he hung up on me. He sent me these pictures the other day. Frank's in Kentucky. David, you're a little bit further south, and I think for the most part up here in the Northeast, maybe Midwest, I don't think it's going to be an issue just yet. Mid-Atlantic, maybe a little bit. Dollar spot's a turf disease. It's typically not turf damaging, but when the conditions are just right, it can be. And what happens is that when it does get really bad, your customers call and complain, and rightfully so. We always want to avoid using preventative fungicides, always, because if you were to use a preventative fungicide, especially a chemical preventative fungicide, you're going to cause extreme damage to the progress you're putting together and increasing the biology in the soil. Every time you apply a biologically active product, you're going to wipe it out by applying a chemical fungicide. So how do we deal with it? Well, if your customers call and it's a situation where it's really bad and they want you to do something, what you can do is use organic bioscience powder at a rate of 1 to 2 ounces per 1,000 square feet about every 2 weeks. It's not a cheap application because that stuff's, especially at 2 ounces per 1,000, is going to be expensive. So then it's up to you as to whether or not you charge the customer for it as a preventative or a curative control. For the most part, I try to avoid that because it irks them. If it's a situation where you can clearly say you didn't expect it to happen, you can get away with charging them for it, especially if they're a higher-end customer or whatnot. Or you could argue that if they're a higher-end customer, you shouldn't charge them. But that's your personal choice, your company's personal philosophy. But the bugs or the microorganisms in organic bioscience powder, especially the fungi, are designed to help really kind of you hear me say good guys versus bad guys a lot. That product's designed for summer use, really for the patch diseases, to try to kind of fight against the spores that are causing the disease. Dollar spot is usually not an issue, but if you crank up the rate a little bit on the OBSP, you can cure it. and actually there's not a lot of turf diseases that product won't cure, especially the wimpy ones. You know, we certainly didn't see any red thread because we didn't have any rain this spring. But 2 ounces per 1,000 square feet every couple of weeks will make it go away. Jeff down in Atlanta as well was having a really massive problem on Bermuda grass, which is also a little bit rare, but he ran into that last year as well. And we looked into a fungicide, and we were pretty psyched because the guys at Engage Agro, the company that sells Fiesta, thought they had something. They did have something. They just don't have it registered for lawns yet. It's only registered for golf. So there's not a real good fungicide application out there that's not going to damage your soil biology. But you want to go with that OBSP, or what you can also do is, where did it go? Dollar Spot. I always find myself back at the Penn State Plant Science website here when I look at turf diseases. You can look at your BeeSafe manual too, but it's easier just to Google Dollar Spot and read up and learn about it and talk about what the conditions are. And so right here, the disease usually reaches peak activity when air temperatures are in the 80 degrees range and under high humidity. Symptoms may also appear in fall. The most severe cases of dollar spot occur on turf receiving closely spaced summer irrigation. Disease may also occur in non-irrigated turf when humidity is high. Prolonged muggy summer weather, dollar spot's more severe under nitrogen deficiency or where grass grows slow. So you can grow it out. Typically, your organic lawns have a little bit less nitrogen or a lot less nitrogen in it. So if it's in a transition period, especially on Bermuda grass, you're going to not grow it out as quickly as you can. So whenever you have any sort of issue like dollar spot or things like this that don't necessarily, you're not necessarily expecting, learn about them. Figure out, talk to me. If you have questions, I know a lot about turf diseases, not everything. Google it, learn about it, get that across to your customers. If it gets so bad, turn it into an opportunity to make some revenue, start selling a preventative control, and you could go out and do that high rate of OBSP in advance of something. Always watch the conditions, always know what's happening and try to predict what's going to happen. The best thing that could ever happen is you use it as an opportunity to get your customers to trust you more. Now, are they going to be thrilled that they've got a lousy-looking lawn? No, they aren't, but the way you handle it could certainly help. And that looks like that could be, well, it says Kentucky bluegrass. I was going to say Bermuda grass, but that's what it kind of looks like from afar. It looks a little different than Frank's, that looks like ryegrass. But it's similar, right? Typically a cosmetic disease you want to try to work on preventing with cultural controls, the way you water, and if you got to get at it with BSP, that's one thing too. All right, any other questions about dollar spot? Has anybody been seeing any other types of diseases out there that we need to take a look at or talk about? It's been fairly quiet, I think, other than the great dollar spot outbreak. So we mentioned fertility and how sometimes, especially in a Bermuda grass lawn, how it's harder to get our organic fertility on an economically acceptable basis. Even with bluegrass and cool season turf, where bluegrass wants to have a whole lot of nitrogen, our organic programs do not have a whole lot of nitrogen in them. So there's ways that we find our way around that. One is to cheat with a little bit of urea, and I don't have a problem with that as long as it's clean feed grade urea at a quarter pound or half pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet into your tank. Definitely, sacrificing some of your organic integrity, but everybody's a little bit different. I don't have a real problem with a little bit of urea, but especially down south where we're talking about Bermuda grass with a higher nitrogen requirement. Jeff had sent me this picture, and I want to see if anybody has any feelings on it. So this is a Bermuda grass lawn. He sent me, said, Tom, my customer's not real happy. I can't get it to green up. So obviously I went into, well, actually, before I give you the answer, can anybody make a comment about this? Bermuda grass lawn, it's hurting a little weak, right? Anybody? Needs fertilizer. This is an organic lawn, new customer that should be way greener. How do you know that it needs fertilizer? How do you know that it needs nitrogen? Come on now, somebody. Well, I looked at this and I'm like, wow, this is a perfect picture to show, especially it was just the other day, so I was going to bring it up on the call. Yeah, the color is not good, right? I think it had 2 applications. It was he was there to do round 3, but it should look better. So check it out, right? These are brand new raised beds. It looks really nice. Backyard garden. Got some peppers, it looks like, growing there, some tomatoes, maybe some squash back there. And you can tell that the soil that he put in there is new. It looks like it's potting soil or some sort of compost. You know, sometimes you can buy that potting soil that's got, you know, fertilizer in it already. Look at this. Look at how that it's leaching out. Look how the grass is greener going downhill from the beds. Whatever nitrogen is in this soil got rained on and leached out. We've got water-soluble nitrogen going downhill out of the beds, the raised beds, making the Bermuda grass green. So there's a couple things that come to mind here. One, what I told them to do is I said, it was a highly organic, it was a customer with a high level of organic integrity, meaning they wanted to stay as organic as possible. They didn't want him to cheat in any way. So I said, you got to hit this with a granular. You got to hit this with even a corn gluten, any natural granular fertilizer that you're going to probably get 10% nitrogen out of. Go crank 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet onto this Bermuda grass with a 1001 or whatever. Get a full pound of nitrogen. Make sure you spray it with growth activator, and it will go poof. It will turn green, and it'll be mint. And you can tell because it's just starving. It's absolutely just starving. It's a conversion lawn that has nitrogen leaching from the raised beds. That's the other thing. So whatever this homeowner did in that soil, whether he put additional fertilizer in it, maybe it was potting soil that had fertilizer in it already, look how fast that nitrogen leaches. Look how fast just some rain moves that nitrogen from the site, from where it's supposed to be, off-site. And it's perfect because that's a hill. Look at the hill going down to the drainage here. And look at the green, the dark green in the drainage. So whatever was going on behind here was washing nitrogen down into whatever is back here is now loading up with nitrogen and phosphorus. And that's going to lead to algae blooms, right? So that kind of gives credibility or lends credence to what you're trying to accomplish. And Jeff ended up having a great conversation with this customer and explaining exactly what was happening. A, the problem is solvable. That Bermuda grass needs fertilizer, and he's going to hit it with fertilizer. B, this customer is organic because they're concerned about chemicals, and that water-soluble nitrogen is clearly moving. Multiply that times 10 million, lawns across the country, and that's why we have problems. So we always want to make sure that if we are going to use soluble nitrogen, we're using it alongside biology, and we're cutting our rates way, way down. Any comments on that? I thought that was a great picture because it solved couple questions I didn't see. Yeah, Christina, you're right too. In terms of, see, Christina, me and you are lucky because we never have to deal with Bermuda grass ever. I hope. The guys down south, especially in the Atlanta market, it's when you try to convert Bermuda to organic, it's way harder because the Bermuda grass wants so much nitrogen. I think they had just gone through a really rainy period, so I don't think it was Christina mentioned it might have been a question of watering. David, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you guys had a fair amount of rain right around this period. Oh, Christina, I just noticed that you called that before too. Nice work. I didn't see that anybody had got that. Yep, leaching right out of there. So I don't think it was. It wasn't a matter of. Definitely wasn't a matter of irrigation because they've gotten quite a bit of rain. Yeah, David comments on the Bermuda grass lawns, that rhizometrics and a little bit of urea. Again, the urea is not going to qualify you for an organic champion, but if you keep it low, if you keep your rates down a little bit, and you're just using it as clean, not slow release, the bugs and the microorganisms, that rhizometrics, are absolutely sequestering that nitrogen, and it will not allow it to do that. Yep, I'm with you, man. That's a good call. Your lawns will look mint, especially those Bermuda lawns. All right, so let's wrap this up. I want to move on to something else. Any questions about products, programs, that kind of thing? You guys should be moving towards round 3 and 4, and most of your programs call for continued use of fertilizers. If you're in the cool season area, you want to continue to fertilize till it gets hot. So if you're using the optimized program, the 2000 and the 15015, continue to use that until it gets hot. When it does get hot, we have to switch to the Ocean Green and Bioscience powder. Great combination, my favorite combination. Remember, when we're talking about this, don't necessarily go by the rounds, go by the conditions, and we all started really late. So you probably are going to want to switch to that Ocean Green and BSP earlier than you normally would, right? We're almost getting towards July, so be ready for that. Same thing, warm season, you're going to want to continue to fertilize over the course of the next couple of months. And what else? Any other questions about that? The Ocean Green and the Bioscience powder is a great application because it's going to help with those disease issues that are going to flare up. We're going to offer the iron for green up. There's quite a bit of sugar in the Bioscience powder, so the biology is really, really diverse. It's really, really great product. If you're doing a really organic program, you're going to want to continue to run that 702. And fertilize might need a granular in there, but the Ocean Green and the Bioscience powder is what you're going to want to switch to very soon and very quickly, as soon as things continue to get hot. Any questions about that? Okay. So I've been going for an hour, and I didn't want to go for much more than an hour. And I've got one very important thing to cover, so I'm going to move onto that right now. We're putting the finishing touches on something that we've been working on, man, for it feels like a long time. We came up with it probably about a year ago. It's BeeSafe Mission 50, and it's about to launch. It's launching on Monday. I know that we've reached out to you guys on a couple of occasions to kind of tell you about it, to kind of help you or ask you to help us participate in it. And let me explain it to you again. Does anybody have any comments on it before I start? BeeSafe Mission 50 is a concept that we came up with a long time ago as sort of the backbone for what we're trying to do, the advocacy part of what we're trying to do. And we'd like to convert the goal, and part of it is sort of a slogan, convert 50% of all lawn care to organic by the year 2025. So it's certainly a massive goal to do it. It's all about getting the message out there. So what we've done is we've combined our Mission 50, and we've got a website here called BeeSafeMission50.com. Go ahead and check it out anytime. It's live, and it's about to be very busy beginning on Monday. As you can see right here, it says our campaign is launching on June 15th. Help us create thick grass without chemicals, reduce pesticide usage by 50%, fight colony collapse disorder, educate towns, schools, municipalities, and all that kind of stuff. I'd love it if you would spend some time here reading some of these things. It's not a real complex website, but it really kind of identifies what we feel about how we want to be remembered, or about what we're trying to do. Naturally we all want to be successful with our business. We want to sell lots of product to you guys. You guys want to have lots of customers. You guys want to make lots of money. But there is a true meaning behind what we're trying to do. And for those of us who've worked in chemical lawn care before, it kind of probably means even a little bit more to us, because we know some of the things that we've participated in, right? So if you get a chance, go to BeeSafeMission50.com, read up. We've got our mission, our vision, and our core values. Our story is kind of interesting. It gets, as usual, a little bit wordy, but it really resonates with how we feel here and what we're trying to do. For those of you who are on and can send me something else that I can put under projects, I'd love to really fill this place out. I know a bunch of you guys did send me stuff, but I'd love to put up as much as possible. So if you've got any particular project that you're working on that you're doing organically, or not even completely organic, maybe a site that's transitioning to organic, or is a customer of yours that's using some organic products, I'd love to put it up here. Dave, I know I saw you on here. We put your Little League field up, the New Hampton School up north, Portland Headlight, Sea Dogs, Dover, New Hampshire, Scarborough, Maine, Lawrence Academy, Harvard, Universal. I'd love to bang this out with a lot more. So if any of you want to send anything at all that I can put up there, this is all about David. Perfect. I forgot about that one. That's a great one. I'd love you to send that. Hopefully that account's going well. I'll put it right up there. This is all about trying to prove to people who are looking at BeeSafe Mission 50 that what we're doing is working and it's successful, and all we need to do is get the word out to more people. And that's always been our biggest challenge, is that for some reason there's a total disconnect. You guys run into this a lot too. People think that there should be a huge demand for organic lawn care, but a lot of times there isn't, because people just aren't fully aware of the issues that are going on. So our goal with BeeSafe Mission 50 is to wrap a campaign around trying to raise awareness. And what we decided to do, and I'll give Lou credit for this, is combine it with a crowdfunding campaign. So we built we created a video, which isn't, this crowdfunding campaign isn't live yet, so if you want to watch the video, you have to go, it will very soon, it will be on the home page of the website here, right? It'll be right here, and you'll be able to watch the video. If you want to watch it before then, just go to, I forget where I put it. If you just watch this. If you Google BeeSafe Mission 50 and hit search, it'll show up right here on the YouTube channel. So we've been working on this for quite a while. This is a pretty good video, and I'd like for you to watch it even before it launches on Monday. It's 6 minutes long, so I don't want to play the whole thing right now. But it starts off with me sitting comfortably talking about organic lawn care and lawn care chemicals. So we take that, we combine it with a really serious social media campaign. We've hired a company, a PR company and a marketing company, to run an exposure campaign behind this. And over the next 2 months, we'll be working really hard to get the message out to anybody who's interested to find out more about our mission, our company, and to give us $5 so that we can turn it around and continue to share information and help people across the country understand that they don't need to use lawn care chemicals on their lawns, and that when they decide that they don't want to use lawn care chemicals on their lawns, that they should contact you and hire you to do your BeeSafe or your organic lawn care program on their lawns. This is all about awareness. This is all about building the consumer brand. You've heard me say it a lot. It's, we really want to put more emphasis on building the brand for you as much as we want to continue to try to get more of you on board. So the more people know about how organic lawn care is doable, it doesn't cost a fortune, and there are people all across the country who can provide it for them, that's what it's all about. And we know that over the course of time, we've come a long way. I know Jeff's been calling a lot of you guys to try to get some of your stats in terms of how much square footage you treat, because we've got a lot of stuff going on in terms of PR and social media, and this campaign is going to really take off, all to benefit you guys, all to benefit you and push that information out there. Any questions? Does anybody have any questions about that? We'd love for beginning Monday, you guys share it on your social sites, share it with your friends and your list and everything else, and you'll hear from us a lot as to how you can do that. You'll probably hear from us probably the beginning of next week as the site goes live to offer suggestions on how you can get the message out. But anything that you guys can do to help us make it work is greatly appreciated. And our hope is that it goes, I don't want to use the word viral, but we'd love for it to kind of go out there and become really well known. We've had a huge uptick this spring. I should say this. I probably should have said at the beginning of the call. A really, really big increase in the amount of activists and advocacy that's going on all across the country. And we've gotten involved in a couple different campaigns. Irvine, California, banned the use of a couple of herbicides. Carson City, Nevada. I found myself a couple of weeks ago on a conference call with the mayor of Carson City, Nevada, and I'm like, how the heck did I get here? I was on public radio in California. We're really pushing to try to get the word out there, and there are tons and tons of advocates who are working really hard. In Dover, New Hampshire, there's a woman who pushed and pushed and pushed for the city to include an organic option in the bid to on the fields and the parks, and they did because she pushed them, and they gave 2 sites, converted 2 sites to completely organic. All over the place, more so than ever before. There seems to be a push from advocates to make this something that people are more aware of, and we intend to work with them to help them push this campaign too. So we'd love for you guys to help as well. Any questions? Let me open up my question. Shut it for a minute. Let me open it up. Any comments? Everybody's rushing to watch the video. Right. We had several applicators help us with it. Tino Montone down in PA, Dave up in Maine. It came out pretty good. I'd like for you to check it out and help us out. All right. I'm going to take a breath and see if there's anything else you guys want to cover. I've gone over an hour. Any questions? Any concerns? Any comments? Anything you'd like to talk about? Yep. So good question. A couple of guys asking questions. Can you use that video on your website? Well, yes. What we're going to try to enable things so that it's very easy for you to push that as well. And we've even looked at trying to customize that video to have your contact information on it. Edit it just a little bit so that we can put your company's name and contact information on there. We haven't followed through with it because there are 120 of you. So we talked about doing it proactively for everybody. If you'd like to watch the video and you'd like to us to create a version specifically for you, we can do that. We absolutely can do it. So please get back to me. Ken, I'll have to look at that. Ken says, Ken, who's a convert, right? Ken, hopefully your BeeSafe lawns are looking good. He says a recent Yale study showed organic soil does reduce global warming. You're right. Yep. There's so many studies out there. That's what this mission is about. Is that and we've been working on some cool infographics and simple ways to get some of this information out there that people can kind of digest. And actually, Ken and guys like me who used a lot of chemical lawn care over the years and have begun to convert away from it. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel bad. I'm like, man, I guess this is why we do what we do. But there are so many things out there. It's a fine line. You have to kind of be careful. You don't want to go too overboard and scare people. But there's so many studies out there, and people just aren't aware of them. They just really aren't. And this is about trying to get it out there. And we're going to work hard to do it. So to answer you guys the questions about trying to whether you can use the video, yes, we can even customize it a little bit for you. Share all the information. Follow us on Facebook here if you haven't already. And every time something gets posted, please share it. Twitter too. Where's my Twitter account here? Twitter. We've got BeeSafe Lawn Twitter account where the same thing is happening. We're promoting all of the mission and everything along with it on social media through a pretty significant paid campaign as well. We're putting a pretty good investment in trying to get the word out. So it's not just the people who follow us or like us on these social media sites. They have sponsored posts, and we'd like to reach as many people as possible. All right. Well, listen, guys, it was good catching up with you again today. Sorry I went longer than I wanted to, but I guess that's the way it always goes. If you have any other things you'd like to go over, or you'd like to talk with us, even though you're still mid-season, it is probably a little bit slower than it was 6 weeks ago. And if you got a couple of minutes, give us a call up here. We'll keep working for you guys. We'll keep doing the best we can to help you grow your business. If you want to review some of your marketing numbers, give me a call and we can do that too. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys all again soon. Thanks.